Bruins Beat is brought to you by PrizePicks.
And welcome into the Bruins Beat, presented by PrizePicks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $50 back when you play just $5 over at PrizePicks. And we're presented by CLNS Media. Remember to go subscribe to Bruins Rinkside on YouTube. There's a lot of great content coming out. Podcasts, Poke the Bear, Pucks with Haggs, Bruins Beat, throughout the offseason, live streams as well. And then obviously if you don't love us in video and you're like, I don't want to see those guys, they got faces for podcasting, make sure to go subscribe to us over at Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasting. I'm Evan Marinofsky. That's Conor Ryan. Connor, what is up?
Evan, doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. Doing great. I'll admit it, Connor. I feel like I'm floating 10 feet off the ground today. I have a jump in my step. It's not just because
Chris Angel?
Chris Angel, that's right, Chris Angel. Like, how did he go through that fence? How did he just
Don't look at the glass he's standing on. Don't look at the glass. Shut up. Get the camera out of there.
Just accept it for what you think it might be.
Yes.
God, that's a throwback. Chris Angel. Oh, goated.
You can still see him in Vegas, man. I am not speaking from experience. I don't go to Vegas to see Chris Angel, but I believe he still has a show. So
that's incredible that he still has a show in Vegas. But oh my God, like late 2000s TV, that was peak. Like, I don't know, 8-9-year-old Evan was like, Mom, look at this on YouTube.
Dude,
look.
so what's to say he's a mind freak? See, I'm gonna eat 25 rattlesnakes and a sword. I'm like, I wouldn't do that. Like, that seems, what are you doing, Chris?
It's funny what people do for money.
I know.
My God, he was incredible. But that's not just because of Chris Angel. Even though I'm going to go down the Chris Angel rabbit hole on YouTube the minute we finish doing this podcast. But it's because the Maple Leafs have lost another Game 7, and they find new lows. They find new lows. I will admit. Obviously, rooting for the Panthers on Sunday night, wanted the Bruins to get that first round pick, and they're like 99.9% of the way there. All you need is Marchand and Trags. Like, it's a lock. So they've got that. But I did kind of want a competitive game. I wanted it to be close. I wanted to be kind of on the edge of my seat. And the first period had a little bit of that. And then the Leafs just imploded from the inside. And I just all you can say is, wow, that they continue to just find ways to do it.
It's brutal, I guess, if you're a Maple Leafs fan, because like what is like what's the formula, right? And how do you like go on from here? Because I think we're going to talk a lot about Toronto and the implications with the Bruins and what they do moving forward. But what's the solution? Because like this offseason, you have to imagine it's going to be a lot of change, and like not anything that like you can map it out as like addition by subtraction, I guess. But like on paper, barring them doing some crazy trades, like Toronto is kind of closing this contention window they have, or at least this chapter of it. And it's like, yeah, you can still build around Matthews and Nylander, and, Matthew Nyes is stepping up and those kinds of things. But do you feel good about where your team is, where like Morgan Riley is now getting older on your D-core? Brendan Carlo had a so-so series. Like, is Benoit
nice ass save? Give him credit.
Yeah, I know. There's one of the few highlights Toronto had.
Made the save.
One of the few highlights Toronto had in that game was that. But then like Chris Tanev is getting up there. Like McCabe is like a good 5 or 6 at this point, right? Like, where do they actually go from here? If you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, do you feel good about what the future holds? I can see like them being like, get rid of Mitch Marner, like get rid of him, and then like he goes, and then you look at the team like, all right, now what do we do? It's like, oh, okay, like so, and it's crazy, Evan, when you look at it, because you can make the case that like this Florida team is just a force of nature, right? Like, I mean, what did they had the first 25 shot attempts in that game? Like, that's just incredible. A damn good team.
Oh.
And they punched him right in the mouth. And like, I'm not saying what can you do there, because like the fact they just had no pushback at all is embarrassing. But the fact they haven't broken through once, like over this stretch, like even look at last year with the Bruins and the way that team was, with like the amount of like veteran, bridge guys on that Bruins team, and the Maple Leafs still lost to that team. Like, it's however you want to map it out, it's just brutal to see the way that they've can't execute in these crunch time situations. And I don't know where you go from here if you're Toronto. Like, they're still going to be good. I don't imagine like all of a sudden we're like, oh, Bruins are going to get the 33rd pick in the draft next year because Toronto's, or I guess they got the first. So Bruins are going to get like a top. Yeah, Bruins are going to get like a top pick or anything like that. I think it's top 5 protected.
It is. I checked today. It's top 5 protected.
Bruins are going to get the 6th overall pick.
Yeah, better than this year, 2026.
Like I don't think it's that, but yeah, you're getting to the point now where it's like next year kind of retool, bridgey kind of year. Where like they're still going to be good. I still think Toronto's going to make the playoffs, but like, are they going in with the same expectations of like, oh no, we got the horses, we got the talent to make a run? Maybe this is the year. Whereas maybe it's like, all right, let's see how we can kind of switch some stuff around and try to build around Matthews, which I also get that like Mitch Marner is the guy that's getting shit on the most and like was not good. And I'm sure we're going to talk about him as well. Where was Austin Matthews?
Oh,
like
genuinely
dude,
wondering,
Jesus.
like, is he in the lineup? Where is he?
Yeah, it's that is also concerning because like at this point, like it feels like Toronto fans are like ready to rip off the Band-Aid with Mana, and which like sure there'll be plenty of teams that would line up to still sign that guy, but like what has Matthews shown you the last couple of games? And it's so frustrating, and I feel like this is why I do feel bad for Toronto fans because like you can see games where they all live up to the hype of how elite they are. Like even what was it, game 2 of the first round series last year where Matthews, like before he got hurt, sick, whatever he had, he took over that game. He was friggin' unbelievable in that. I think it was game 2. Played like a legit top 5 player. And it's like, how, I'm not saying you got to do that every game. You're not averaging full points a game in the playoffs, but was just impactful, was winning faceoffs, was winning board battles, was in the right spots, was always a shooting threat. You can at least do that, right? And I don't know, like if you're Toronto, it's going to make you want to rip your hair out when you've got all these guys that it's almost like you have a 1 in 4 chance, maybe 1 in 3 chance of having one of your franchise guys just take over a game, 2-goal game when you need it. Even if you have, a 1 assist, but you're winning faceoffs, you're doing stuff to help tilt the ice in your team's favor. And you like rarely see it from them in crunch time. It's gonna drive Toronto fans absolutely bonkers when you get to this time of the year.
I wonder because Matthews has sort of become a two-way center, and we saw this at Four Nations where it was like, oh, he's good defensively, all these different things.
Yeah, he's a great player.
But it's funny because you see the offensive side suffer, and the great two-way centers find ways to be two-way centers, not just defensive centers or good in their own zone. And with Matthews, it sort of has all gone to hell in the last bunch of games. I think it's bad. It's really bad, like all-time bad, when the main message of the Panthers post-game press conferences was like,
we feel bad for these guys.
Go easy on the Leafs. Like, we feel bad. And it is true, the Toronto market, and I was talking to Court Lalonde about this on Friday, is the most hockey-crazed market, probably next to Montreal, in the NHL. And that it's pressure-packed, and your fans are on top of you. You saw it on Sunday night, throwing beers on the ice and throwing jerseys. I mean, their jerseys just flying on the ice.
Dude, Eddie Olczyk in the middle of the broadcast was like, they should take that guy below the stands and shoot him in the head. And I was like,
you should chain him to the basement door and leave him there forever.
It was like, geez, like, you ever seen Jesse Pinkman and Breaking Bad? They should tie him up like that. Like it's like, relax, dude. Yeah. Also, yeah, good job on TNT. Literally missing the goal, missing Reinhardt's 5th goal. By the way.
I left the room to put my snack back. Veggie sticks. I've been really into veggie sticks recently.
Nice.
And I a little healthier. And I walk into the kitchen. I come back and I'm like 5-1. Yes. Like I was gone for maybe a couple seconds and I could hear the broadcast. And so like, oh, 1. Like was it 5-1 before? But it's gone down the tubes with the Leafs, and it gets worse and worse. And I do wonder about their future. And before we get into sort of the Florida's first, which Brad Marchand helped get you, I was listening to 32 thoughts on
the 36. Pod.
There's four more teams in the league.
Elliot jumps on for like another 4-minute like emergency pause. Like, wait.
Got 4 more thoughts. Hear me out. I got 4 more thoughts. But I was listening on Monday morning, and Elliot mentioned, he said basically the effect of the way Marchand was talking after the game on Sunday. Are the Leafs going to full court press for Marchand? in the sense of if you can't beat him, join him. And Marchand has gone 5 for 5 in game 7s against the Leafs. He has effectively like just torched the entire city with the Bruins and obviously now with Florida. And I do wonder now, I don't think Marchand would go there. I think that's the problem. Like, I think Toronto would happily overpay for him. I think they're going to overpay for someone this offseason that has playoff success, whether it's a Sam Bennett or a Brad Marchand. But I don't know if Marchand would want to go there because he has mentioned in the past Toronto being kind of an insane market and being almost too much and the fans being too into it. I know he says he's a Leafs fan growing up and, you know, kind of talking good about the team. I don't see him going to Toronto. I see that more of Marchand kind of shooting that down, but it is kind of a fun possibility to throw up in the air.
Yeah, I wouldn't totally rule it out, right? Especially if that's a team that, again, can't beat them, join them. The Toronto will have some money, especially if they are letting someone like Mana go. So I wouldn't totally rule it out. I just feel like there's better options for Marchand. Like, not even looking at like, oh, he's coming back to the Bruins, which I don't think that's happening. But like, if you're Marchand, wouldn't you either rather stay in Florida, even at like a cheaper rate with no taxes, chilling down in, you know, Fort Lauderdale, being on a wagon of a team who are also not really the guy? And I think we can talk about that of like, at this stage of his career, you see how friggin' good Marchand is when he's like your line driving, like third line guy, or, you know, he's on the second line. He's not the guy there. Yeah.
Buzzsaw of a guy.
It's like, you can see where on a team like that, where his value really comes through. And I'm not saying that like where he was with the Bruins, like he was in a bad spot or like he's not cap material. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying like in terms of what the Bruins were years of, you know, not drafting at all or drafting poorly or not building the rest of the core around him. The fact that Marchand at 36 going on 37 had to be your best left wing, had to be like one of your 3 best forwards, putting him in a bad spot. And also it's not maximizing what your team is, where I feel like if you were successfully retooling on the fly or at least kind of building that next core around, you know, the McAvoys and Pasternaks, the ideal situation is like Marchand's still an effective player, but he's in an ancillary kind of third line role where he can really thrive, you know, like, and I think you've seen it with Florida. So if you're Marchand, like, would you rather stay down in Florida? We can do a role like that. Wouldn't you rather go to like Carolina that has like a shit ton of money, that is probably a more closer to contending than maybe Toronto next year, where like you can just kind of ride shotgun with like Seth Jarvis in a top 6 role, not really be the guy, but like plays that style of hockey, gets to work with Rob Brindamore. Like, I think Toronto, like, it can make sense, especially from Toronto's point of view of why they'd want him. But I could also rattle off 4 or 5 contending teams that I feel like Marchand would probably rather go to before, again, jumping into the circus of what Toronto is. I'm not saying that he couldn't handle it, but I almost feel like him talking about like how the pressure is put on these guys. It's like, I don't think he would struggle with that, Marchand. Like, he's been through plenty of high pressure situations, but does he want to deal with the bullshit? I think is the part.
At 37, why would you enter into that willingly?
It's not pressure on Marchand's part of playing in a market like Toronto. It's the bullshit involved with it of like the same questions over and over again, the same kind of like, it has to be exhausting, I think, being up in a market like that, especially when the results aren't there and you got to go through a full 82 game season to try to quiet down those narratives, right? It's not, you're not solving it in October through early April. It's, you have to go through a whole year of those kinds of storylines and narratives where you have a chance to kind of prove them wrong. And if you come up short, just continues.
Well, they're walking on eggshells up there. I mean, that's what it really is. Like, you see it in the games. I mean, one mistake and then it just, you know, just catapults. It gets worse and worse and worse. And it's like, once you make that one mistake or that one goal goes in against, the air just gets sucked out of that building and it never seems to come back. And I don't know why Marchand would willingly just step into that unless they offered him way more money than anybody else and said, you know, this is what we envision your role. And I don't see that. Yeah, I don't see that. From Toronto's perspective, it makes perfect sense. That's the exact kind of guy you need. You need a guy who is successful in the playoffs and has a winning pedigree and a leader. Like they so obviously need that. I just don't see how that happens, especially going from Florida too. And Matthew Tkachuk was on Chicklets on Monday morning talking about how, like, you know, the benefit is we don't have that pressure. Like we play in Florida. And like, I think players are realizing this. You see it, you know, Rantanen probably feels it in Dallas. the guys in Tampa, Stamkos and Kucherov and Hedman have felt it down there for years. Also, I don't think it's crazy that Stamkos went to Nashville. Like, I'm not saying that these guys don't want pressure, but you add in social media and you add in just the buzz around the city. And I don't think players don't want to play for original six teams with, high octane fan bases. But I think like the fact that the Florida Panthers are good, like there's a reason Marchand wanted to go down there. I think that all has something to do with it. So it's a fun idea, Marchand to Toronto. Him and Carlo could reunite, and the Bruins-Leafs rivalry would be, at quite the high with Marchand on the other side of it. I'm curious if Bruins fans would hate Marchand for it or come to not, dislike him or come to dislike him for it. I just don't see it. It wouldn't be at the top of my prediction list. I would not have him up there, but it's an interesting idea. And Friedman throwing it out there, although Friedman was open with like, this is not like insider information. But Friedman has a way of massaging, like
sprinkling those things in.
Yeah, like just pushing it out there. I want to talk more about the Leafs, Mitch Marner, the first round pick that the Bruins are likely to get from the Panthers. But first, our friends over at PrizePicks, cash in on the basketball playoffs with PrizePicks. Don't miss your last chance to add your favorite players from the court to your PrizePicks lineup. Whether it's points, rebounds, assists, take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today. Turn your playoff hot takes into tickets to basketball's championship series. Starting with the play-in round, every lineup you make on PrizePicks will enter you in the Takes to Ticket sweepstakes, which could get you in a +1 VIP trip to the ship. PrizePicks is also the best place to win cash while watching sports. Join millions of users and sign up today. Personally, PrizePicks-wise, for the conference final over in hockey, Connor McDavid more than 2.5 shots on Wednesday. Like, I think that's sort of always expected. He's just such a freaking, a force. And then I look at, the saves. These are two high offenses. I think with Ottinger and Skinner, I'm going more saves. Ottinger right now is 27.5 for Dallas on Wednesday night. And I can't find one on Skinner, but it's 23.5. I would take more on both those guys because it's going to be that kind of night. Also, if you want to get in on the action, make sure to download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Go run your game over at PrizePicks. So the big win for the Bruins on Sunday night looks like you're getting that first from Florida. And it should be 2027. I believe it's top 10 protected. So obviously, if it's not that, it would move into 2028. But you get an extra first round pick nonetheless. I think I'm not going to sit here and go, well, in 2027, Connor, who do you think they should pick in that first round? Who are you liking in that 2027 first round pick? That's the real question. I'll say it. Carter Meyer from Winchester. Freddie Meyer's kid, real good, going to be at the program. That's my pick. Clip it. Bruins pick Carter Meyer in 2027. Write it down. Write it freaking down. This means nothing to any of you right now, but when it actually happens, you're going to be like Evans Nostradamus. The Johnny Carson meme with posted it yesterday with the big hat. Yeah. Karnak, yes. But I think, in the short term, the Bruins did the right thing at the deadline. Like that really felt like a home run. And I think now that the dust has settled, I think everybody was pissed that Marchand got traded at the time. But now that you got a first round pick back for a guy who was injured at the time, I don't think that looks so bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about just maximizing what was a shitty year, right? And trying to get the most out of how you're rebuilding moving forward. And yeah, you can make the case that maybe the Bruins could have got more if, they didn't kind of put the ball in Marchand's court. I think I don't know if it was Friedman or someone said that the Kings really wanted Marchand, and like what would that return have been, right? Like, I'm not saying you would have gotten like Byfield for him. Yeah. Like I'm not saying that, but maybe it's more of like legit younger NHL talent. Maybe it's Brent Clark or like a right shot D and like a second or something like that, or something like that maybe would have helped you right now and for the future. But yeah, if you're the Bruins, and I think it's all about just giving yourself as many options as possible to add talent to this team through the draft, right? It's not saying every pick you're going to hit, but you look at this upcoming year, right, where you have your first, obviously, and I don't think you're moving that, barring a crazy trade, but like having 2 seconds, like there's no guarantee that those two players you're going to pick in the second round are going to be hits, but you're giving yourself a chance. You look at 2026, the first round pick you get from Toronto. Who knows where that's going to be? But even if it is like 15 to 25, you can find like a good lineup regular there. Same with
even
Florida.
If it's not number 6 in the lottery.
Yeah,
make do with it.
Yeah, like you can, I think, find just a guy that ends up being your second line left wing there, or your right shot, defenseman that can play 20 minutes a night or something. Like you're going to be able to unearth value there. And if you are trying to, get more aggressive, it also just gives you the option that you can trade a future first and still have your own first round pick too, right? Like you're stockpiling your assets that you can either hold on to, which I don't think you begrudge any Bruins fans for doing that, and really restock your prospect pipeline. Or if the right deal comes up or the right guy you want to target, you can trade those picks without necessarily giving up your entire war chest either. So I think you look at, I got the full list here of the Bruins total haul from this trade deadline. So
let's see it.
2025 second round pick from Edmonton, 2025 second round pick from Colorado. You got a 2025 fourth round pick from Toronto, which I forgot about. So Toronto also gave you a fourth round pick this year. You got the 2026 conditional first round pick from Toronto for next year. So top 5 protected. 2026 sixth round pick from Minnesota. That trade is still hilarious. All these trades did pretty well, all things considered.
Yeah, the aged fine wine.
Yeah. And 2027 first round pick from Florida, which again could be 2028 if it's top 10 protected, or if I think Toronto moves their or Florida moves their first round pick next year, I think it also would get pushed back. Which again, if it gets pushed to 2028 and it's unprotected, probably gives you even more leeway of if this team eventually ages out. The further back you go, the higher chance it's a pick that could be, really hold some value there. So whether it's 27, 28, you're still going to get a useful asset there, whether it's you end up trading it or what. Casey Middlestat, again, I don't know how much you're going to really grade what he was this year based on the fact that it was Cole Koepke was his line mate. But even then, it's still a guy that
we don't stand for this Cole Koepke hatred. We don't stand for that.
Fraser Mitten, Will Zellers, Lauko, Husendinov, and then 2 AHL defensemen Max Warner and Daniil Misiul. So all things considered, man, you've gotten a lot of impact, future assets that can really help you out in whoever you want to frame it. You hold on to them and see what you get, or you trade them for future impact players for right now. It just gives you options. And I think we look at where the Bruins were at the time. I don't think anyone's going to begrudge them now for trading those players, getting those assets, and also kind of bottoming out your year. I get that they ended up with the 7th pick, but they put themselves in a spot to get a 2 through top 5 pick the way they just kind of bottomed out after that. So I don't think you have to begrudge the way the Bruins handled the year when they realized center a year, nothing's going right. Might as well embrace the tank and make the most of getting a head start or a jump start on where this retool is going to be.
I saw, I think it was McKean's Hockey tweeted out a Bruins prospect ranking, and they went to number 27, which is a little bit higher than they'd previously been, but still really not good. And
they had lost Schmellis at 10.
10. I was shocked at that. And the whole list, I really didn't agree with a lot of it, but nevertheless, I mean, there aren't a lot of guys on that list that you're oh, that's a franchise guy someday.
Yeah.
I think when you look at the prospect rankings for this team in, and this is far out, but 2026 and 2027 should be a lot better. I mean, again, you had a first round pick last year. You have a first round pick this year. I'm not even mentioning the seconds that you have. You'll have 2 seconds this year, but also 2 first rounders next year, 2 likely in 2027. And so your prospect pool is going to be much better come 2026 and come 2027. And that's likely going to start paying dividends in 2028 and 2029 and 2030. And you're going to enter the next decade in a very good spot. And it really, I think, is going to come back to this past season and the moves you made. And I think you could thank Brad Marchand for that with the Panthers. I think, was he their highest point getter? Is he their highest point getter right now for the Panthers?
He was tied with Luosterainen. And they've got so many. I looked at their thing. It shows the sign of a good team.
Yeah.
It's they're at the top with 12, and you got 3 guys with 10 points, Bennett, and 4 of the guys have 9. All their D are scoring. Their fourth line's been great. I mean, hell, I don't think Matthew Tkachuk scored a goal in this entire 7-game series.
I would say he was irrelevant in this series. He has, again, and he still has 9 points in 12 games.
Yeah. They just stacked all across the line, man. That fourth line they got is great. It's you just cycle through all the Bruins like fourth line guys, and they just somewhat delivered there. Like Greer had that set up on their third goal, and it shows you again, like with Florida, and the Bruins were so obsessed this past year with finding ways to beat them or mimic them. It's like, yeah, you got to be physical, I guess, but they just have depth and skill all across the lineup. Like Evan Rodriguez, that sick play right around the boards where he sets up for Seth Jones's goal. And it's like that's a third line guy.
Well,
if Evan Rodriguez was on the Bruins, he'd probably be like your top left wing. You'd probably like be fighting with like Morgan Geekie for your top spot there, right? And it's just they've got talent and skill all across the lineup. And you can look at like the big additions they make, right? Like Seth Jones, who was awesome in Game 7, Marchand, obviously, but just the amount of guys that if you put them on other teams and how far up the depth chart they'd be, and they're pushed down to like third line roles with Florida, it just shows you just the amount of skill they have. And that's like the biggest key. It's you can look at the Sam Bennett's and the Kachucks and, you know, Nico Mikkola and some of these guys that are really physical players, and that plays into their success. But also they've got guys 1 through 12 that can skate well, can finish plays in tight, and just have that skill level to really capitalize in playoff hockey. And I think that's the biggest thing. And so why the Bruins, there's a lot they got to do this offseason. They need to add talent. They are a talent deficient roster, I think, is the biggest issue you have right now if you're the Bruins.
Yeah, and I think you also like depth-wise, having guys that are, you know, the Panthers have elevated AJ Greer and guys like Tomas Nosek and Jesper Boquist, and it makes me wonder, like, I think it also goes back to coaching. I think Paul Maurice is a good coach. I think they have a really good culture down there. They really do. And I was listening to 32 Thoughts on Monday morning, and he mentioned how Nate Schmidt in a preseason game had kind of done something stupid with the puck in his own zone, and the coaches didn't say anything, but one of, I think it was either Bennett, Reinhardt, or Barkov just said, like, we don't play like that here. This is how we don't do that in the defensive zone. And I just think, everybody talks about the Bruins culture, and the Bruins culture was held up well for a long time. I think the Panthers have a really good culture. I do. And I think that's why they've had sustained success for the last couple of years. Doesn't mean it's going to last forever. Maybe in 2027 or 2028, that first round pick is high, but they're having a lot of success. And I think it helps when, they're elevating guys like AJ Greer, the guys I just mentioned, and you mentioned like Evan Rodriguez. These are guys who are thriving in spots that, are further down in the lineup, like a Rodriguez than maybe he normally would be on other teams, or higher in the lineup.
So it's BU guys, man.
It's BU, man. I guess you guys got something. You guys got something over there. You mentioned that the Bruins need talent, and I did a podcast on Friday with Court Lalonde, and the title was "Should the Bruins Sign Mitch Marner?" Now we talked about a lot of other things, but Mitch Marner was a big talking point. How
is the comment section, Evan?
Over 100 comments, and most of them were a big old hell no. People don't want Mitch Marner. They do not want Mitch Marner, and I see it on Twitter. I see people saying that they don't want him, and I think it's short-sighted. Now I get it, right? Marner did not have a great series. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. I'm not going to try to shit polish it or anything like that. But people see a video of Mitch Marner yelling at his team, and his hair isn't fully wet. And you see the video of him, the spinorama turnover. I mean, again, look at his playoff stats. His playoff stats over the course of his career have not been bad. And this is a guy who brings high-end skill, which is exactly what you need. It's not what the Leafs need. The Leafs need different things than you. You need different things. You need high-end skill. And I sincerely believe if you take him out of Toronto, he is a better player. He's going to be he is a better player. I think the pressure of being from Toronto, playing for the Leafs, the years and years of misery. Yes, of course, he has not been a winner in the playoffs. I agree, but it's a team game. And to me, if it tanks, if this playoff somehow lowered his value, which I don't think it overall did, but if it somehow did, then great, terrific. But to me, I'm still on the get Mitch Marner train. You need him.
Yeah, I agree, right? And I think we've both been beating this drum for months now, right? And it feels like it's been even longer that the Bruins season's over. And listen, I get people's hesitancy when you look at the play. He did not have a good playoff run. I get I get the optics of it. I get that. I think there's a valid concern where if the Bruins signed Mitch Marner, I'd be like, wow, they've got a legit star player here. I really hope he does well in the playoffs. Like, I think we'll all have that sentiment, right? But I also think if you're the Bruins and you're just so desperate for just outright talent, like Mitch Marner has it, and if you have Mitch Marner, like your chances of at least getting back into the playoffs and being a contending team that you can build up moving forward, where you have two wingers in Pastrnak and Marner that are going to drive play with whoever you have. Like,
yes,
you don't have to like all of a sudden like load up your team. You'd like to, but you have the luxury if you have Pastrnak, who's made a really effective line out of Morgan Geekie and Elias Lindholm. And it's not like disrespect to like Morgan Geekie and these guys, but Pastrnak has elevated them, right? And like they've meshed well, but it's now like where we're talking about Morgan Geekie. I think we're being very rational of like, well, I don't think Morgan Geekie's going to be a 30-goal guy, but shit, if he plays as a Pastrnak, like maybe he's just a 25-goal player, right?
Yeah.
And if Mitch Marner is there and all of a sudden you're putting in, I don't know who exactly the right fit is, Will Cooley. Let's say you get Will Cooley.
Yeah, there you go.
And he had 23, 25 goals this past year. Like, what's saying he's going to be a 30-goal guy? What's it, like if you have a guy that's as skilled as Marner as a playmaker, you can kind of put, whoever you want in that second line. It's probably going to be, at the very least, a good line. It's like all of a sudden your top six falls more into place by getting a guy like that. Like, I get the worries of like, oh yeah, you'll make the playoffs and he's going to show up in the postseason. We don't know, but also like you look at it, the way Marner, like his playoff numbers are, I think he's got more points per 60 in the playoffs than like Brad Marchand, and I think Patrice Bergeron. I know people don't want to hear that. I don't know if people want to hear that.
Goes against the narrative. It's not as fun.
Or and again, like I'm not absolving him, nor am I saying that Mitch Marner is better than Patrice Bergeron. I'm just saying that in the playoffs, numbers can kind of get all funky. Like, and what a guy's narrative is can change very quickly. Like, people are like, we don't want Mitch Marner, we want Nikolai Ehlers. See how good he's playing in these last two rounds? And Nick Ehlers has been awesome the last two rounds. Before this playoff run, next to probably Connor Hellebuck, the biggest dog in the playoffs the last probably half decade has been Nikolai Ehlers.
Please Google Nikolai Ehlers playoff stats.
Before this year, I think he has 4 goals in like 44 playoff games. For a guy that's like a lock every year to be a 25, 30 goal scorer.
Yep.
And I like Nikolai Ehlers, but the same thing of going into this year, a guy that will give you 25 goals, great skater, super skilled. If the Bruins signed him, I'd be like, that is a second line guy that's going to pencil him in for 25 goals. Great player. And he's probably raising his stock more because he's finally broken through this year and been a really effective player for Winnipeg. Even though they lost game 6, he was great in that game as well. His label has been he's a dog in the playoffs before this run. So what's to say that Mitch Marner on the Bruins or anywhere else where he's in a different market does not have the same pressure? Like, Boston is still a high octane hockey focused market, right? But it's not Toronto. Is it going to be a given that he's going to be, the Bruins go a 7-game series, he's going to have 3 points? Like, what's to say he can't break through and he's on the power play with David Pastrnak feeding him one-timers, right? Like, I just think that the concerns are valid, as what I would say with Marner. Like, I'm not being like, you're an idiot if you're worried about Mitch Marner. Like, there are concerns, but
I get it.
I also think beggars can't be choosers. And if you're the Bruins and you have an obvious need for just high-end talent, Mitch Marner in the regular season is going to give you 90 points, and it's not out of the realm of possibility, nor is it fair to just be like, well, he's going to be, putting up 3 points in a playoff run. It's like, no, like any player that is that skilled can go off on a playoff run and break out, right? Like, that was kind of the label for David Pastrnak. Like, David Pastrnak also didn't have a great first round against Toronto this past year. And then 2-3 years ago, he had a 6-point game against Toronto. And he scored what? He scored a game 7 overtime winner against Toronto. Like, skilled players, elite players are inevitable. They will eventually break out. Not saying they're going to be 3 points per game, but if you have a guy like Mitch Marner on your team, it boosts your chances of, one, having a guy that's going to produce night in and night out. And the day that he finally does have a 2-goal, 2-assist game, I think you'd rather have him there on the Bruins as opposed to just being like, we don't want him. Go out to Utah or anything like that,
How many middle six forwards do you want? Like, these people are like, we don't want Mitch Marner. I don't want Mitch Marner. Well, then how do you want them to get better? Like, I believe that they should get better through the draft. And they seem to be doing that. They acquired a bunch of picks at the deadline. They're making their picks. It's a point of emphasis, and I think that's going to be what kind of bolsters that next core that goes along with a Pastrnak. Mitch Marner costs you nothing other than money. Costs you cap space, which is important, but the cap space is good. The cap's going up, and all your franchise guys right now are signed. Pastrnak is signed, Swayman is signed, McAvoy is signed, Hampus Lindholm, Elias Lindholm. All those guys are signed, and you don't really have any big young guys coming up that you got to pay. Even if you draft Jake O'Brien this year, he's probably not up here for 2 years. And once he's up here, he has a 3-year deal, 3-year entry-level deal if it continues, which I assume it will. So you don't have to pay him for another 5-6 years probably. Like that would be what, 5-6 years into Marner's contract? Like I get the hesitation because of this playoff run. And I get that it's sort of what have you done for me lately? And Marner's stock is down in terms of public opinion. But you need high-end talent. You need it. So like I think what they end up doing is Besser. I think Besser's probably the route that they take. Fine player, should produce somewhere in the range.
Should score 35 goals. Probably won't, though. He's kind of American Jake DeBrusk a little bit.
That's the thing. And that's what's like, you want another one of those. You guys hated Jake DeBrusk. You couldn't stand Jake DeBrusk, and you're bringing him back in, which, like, again, fine. Jake DeBrusk was valuable, and you didn't really replace him after last year, and good in the room and all those things. But, like, you have a chance with Mitch Marner for a 90-plus point guy a season who you can pencil in as elevating guys. Like if you did stick Middlestat with him, which wouldn't be the most ideal thing in the world, but if that was what you did, Middlestat should have a pretty damn good season. And like, I understand, like, there are other places out there, Utah or Chicago or Anaheim or wherever, right, who might have more money and are going to go harder to get him. Like, I understand that. Maybe it's, I don't know, Carolina doesn't really pay anybody,
or just a quieter place. Like, I wouldn't be surprised, as much as we also were like, oh, like the Bruins could use Mitch Marner. Maybe Mitch Marner wants to go out west, maybe where he's,
that's right,
kind of
10 p.m. time slot, like, just a little chiller, maybe.
Utah, like, already a pretty good team, like, can be the guy, like a new franchise. Oh, he picked us, and for him, it's a quieter market. Still going to be in the playoffs, like, but the pressure's not there if you don't play well.
That could work.
Watch, he'll go to Utah and have like 10 points in a 7-game series. They went around, and he's a hero there.
He's a hero. And like, to be like, no, I don't want him. Like, if he chooses somewhere else because of the atmosphere or the less pressure or they offer more money, then whatever. But if it's like, no, I want Nikolai Ehlers or Brock Besser or just, and again, like, those are nice players, but like, are they elevating you to the point where you are second in the Atlantic or like a contender for the cup? Not quite yet. You're going to need guys around them. And I still think, you do need a legit center for Mitch Marner at some point. Like, you probably draft that and you hope that guy pans out a couple years down the road after you draft him. But to be like, no, I don't want Mitch Marner. No. Like, you got to look deeper than that. And remember this year of like, man, they're getting outskated, outshot, outplayed, outskilled, everything. And we said that like in every episode was like, oh my God. And again, the other thing, not to beat the Marner dead horse thing, because we've talked about it so much, and I don't want to like have people be like, I'm turning this off. But you also can't waste David Pastrnak's prime. Can't do that. And again, I'm not saying if you just bring Besser in that it's gonna, you're terrible. Like, I think you'll be good, you'll be fine. But like, the Atlantic is good. Look around. Like, Ottawa and Montreal made it this year, and they're on the upswing. Tampa's going to be in it again. Florida's going to be in it again, most likely. Toronto, I don't know.
Montreal.
Yeah, Montreal's going to be really good. Like, Buffalo's Buffalo. But, like, Detroit at some point.
No, Buffalo's going to suck.
Buffalo's going to stink. That's forever, no doubt. But, like, at some point, Detroit's got to break in or be more competitive. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe.
And but like, you've rattled off 3 or 4 teams that are going to be better next year.
Again, we talked about this a lot in the early part of this decade, the end of the last one. It was Toronto, it was Tampa, and it was Boston. And those were the 3. And then Florida kind of came in the mix. And now you're adding Ottawa and you're adding Montreal. Like, everyone's still competitive. Like, Toronto, even if they take a step back, should still be in it. So, like, if you just, like hypothetically, if you just do Besser and you get maybe a couple veteran names and you don't get, like, a Will Cooley even, let's say. Like, it's a couple veteran depth signings and Besser, that's another year you're probably out of the playoffs. Like you will be more competitive. You won't be a lottery team, but like, are you getting past? Are you getting above Montreal? Are you getting above those teams? I don't know. It's a question, and you don't want to waste another year of Pasternak's prime, another potential 100-point season. And Marner, to me, helps not waste it and buys you some time being in the playoffs. Maybe it's a lower seed, but you're in the playoffs for when your draft picks come up. Am I insane for this?
No. I mean, again, like, it's all about maximizing. I think it's weird, right? Because you're right where you have to maximize this window where Pasternak's in his prime and McAvoy and all these guys, but you also just have to be smart with it, right? Of what's like a sustainable way of doing it. And so, like, if you're like tying yourself up for the next 3 years off of like contracts for, you know, Matt Duchene and John Tavares, and I'm like, oh, okay, you just want to make the playoffs.
That's
but
bad
like,
idea.
but like Marner's a guy that, yeah, even with the red flags, he's just turned 28, had 102 points this year. Like, if you're just trying to get back in the mix and then you get in the playoffs and then you just roll the dice, like Marner already was put him on this team. And let's say you add another player, you sign Will Cooley, you offer sheet him, you trade for Mason Marchment, something like that. Like, you've got a functioning second line now. Like, you're probably in the playoffs. Don't know how far you go, but Mitch Marner brings your power play from, 28th to at the very least 15th. If he's setting up David Pastrnak and you've got another like Cooley at the net front, you're doing a lot better than where you were. And it's not even factoring in like you getting McAvoy and Lindholm back. Mm-hmm. You're in the playoffs, and you roll the dice there, knowing that you're going to be competitive for right now. You know, maybe you're not a legit contender, but you're in the playoffs. You got fans excited. You're building something up while also having Jake O'Brien marinating and whoever your second round picks are from this year. And you've got Toronto's 2026 first, and you got Florida's 27 in the pipeline as well, where it's like you're staying competitive right now. You've got younger players like Marner's 28, Pasternak's 28, I think, 28, McAvoy's 27. So you're in the mix at the very least. And again, in the playoffs, anything can happen. Like, what's to say that Marner goes off in a first round series and Swayman gets hot, and all of a sudden, like, it's you're able to, you know, stay in the mix right now and be competitive and be a fun team that's building, while also having multiple reinforcements, you hope, on the way in terms of the guys you're drafting. Or if you're already exceeding expectations, you can trade Toronto's first round pick or Florida's for more help down the road. Like,
bingo.
While also not giving up your first. So it's almost like, you know, again, it's not like Marner's the cheat code, but if you're just trying to get back into the mix and be fun to watch right now and get into the playoffs while also not sacrificing your future by doing it, then it's handing the bag to a guy like Mitch Marner, who at the very least, flaws and all, is going to be a 90-point star player. You know, that is, I think, the best argument for it. Like, acknowledging the risk, which every free agent signing is a risk. People thought Elias Lindholm was going to be a lock. It's like, oh, he's clearly going to play with David Pastrnak. He's going to be a 70-point guy. It's great. And he wasn't. Like, doesn't always work out, but there's also rare times where a guy who's 28, you know, in his prime is available just for the highest bidder or for whatever that free agent wants. So if you're the Bruins, it's not a given that he's going to come here, but it would be negligent on the Bruins' part to not pursue a guy like that can help you out in 2025, 26, and 2030 when he's 32 and is still playing at a high level when you've got more guys in place. Like, it is a short-term and long-term boost for this team if a guy like Mitch Marner is available and you are able to sign him. I think is the most compelling argument you have, right?
He checks a lot of boxes, and he's also a good two-way forward. He's good. Your penalty kill gets better with him. So, like, to me, it makes a lot of sense. Now, again, do I think they are the team who ends up getting him? No, in my heart of hearts, I don't think that.
I think he's going west.
They should absolutely have a full court press for him and do whatever it takes, and not be like, nah. No, because that's the exact kind of skill they need, and he fits that. And so when I hear people be like, "No, I no way," like, I get it, I understand it, but you got to look past that. Got to see the forest through the trees a little bit. Connor, what can the people look forward to from you over at the Globe and Boston.com?
Yeah, you can read me over at the Globe and Boston.com. We've covered every step of the way this Bruins off season, whether it's free agency, offer sheets, trades, Coaching search, still waiting on that. See if anything more percolates from that.
Does Mitch Marner want to be the head coach? Maybe Mitch Marner could be head coach.
You're asking the important questions.
Player coach, like Manny.
Yes, exactly. Like Manny, yeah, of course. But no, there's those kinds of things. We've got the draft, whole bunch of stuff. It's gonna be a very busy summer, but an exciting one. You can read all of my stuff over at theglobeandboston.com. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, you can at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. That's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofsky. Make sure to go subscribe to Bruins Ringside on YouTube for all of our content and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from. I'm Evan Marinofsky. You Bruins Beat listeners, have a great rest of your week.